And I don't know if you've seen this, but the two astronauts that you just helped save from space, they didn't get any overtime pay for all that extra time. They got $5 a day per diem. Oh. For 286 days, that is $1,430 in extra pay. Is there anything the administration can do to get them, to make them whole?
Well, nobody's ever mentioned this to me. If I have to, I'll pay it out of my own pocket, okay? I'll get it for them. I'll take care of that. I like that. I think that's... I'll pay it right out of my... Is that all? That's not a lot for what they had to go through. And I want to thank Elon Musk, by the way, because think if we don't have him. You know, there's only so long, even though they're in the capsule up there, that the body starts to deteriorate after 9 or 10 months. And gets really bad after 14, 15 months with the bones and the blood and all the things that you've been reporting on very well. And if we don't have Elon, they could be up there a long time. Who else is going to get him? And I just want to thank him. He's going through a lot, what they're doing to him. And these people are going to be caught, and they're going to be caught, and they're going to be prosecuted. And from what they tell me, I see this just by watching your programs and reading the news, but from what they tell me, they could get 20 years in jail, and they'll get it. I'll tell you, there's going to be no leniency, and there'll be no pardons. I can tell you that right now.
And you said this morning...
They set off to spend 8 days in space. Their trip lasted 9 months, but finally they're back. NASA astronauts Sunitha Williams and Barry Wilmore have finally arrived back on Earth. They made a fast re-entry through the Earth's orbit, followed by a gentle splashdown off the coast of Florida. They came out of the hatch, waving and smiling, bringing an end to a mission that has captivated global attention for months now. So what did they do in space for 9 whole months? How was their journey back? What lies ahead of them in terms of recovery, and how is the world reacting to their return? Our next report tells you.
The task get going, and you have.
Earth circled 4,576 times.
Good handle.
Distance traveled 195 million kilometers. Days spent in space 286. That's 278 days longer than anticipated. But finally, Sunitha Williams and Barry Wilmore are no longer stuck in space. They have returned to Earth.
So right now what we're doing on board Dragon is preparing for that undocking sequence to be commanded.
Hitching a different ride home than the one they went up on. Their SpaceX capsule made a fast re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere. Then 4 parachutes opened, and the astronauts splashed down in calm waters off the coast of Florida, as a pod of dolphins circled the craft.
Screen, we can see dolphins, actually, who want to come and play with Dragon. Now, one of the fast boats there in place, working.
A recovery ship lifted the capsule out of the water. And within an hour, the NASA astronauts were out of their capsule. They smiled and waved, bringing an end to a mission that was supposed to last 8 days, but went on for 9 months.
She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
The saga began last year in June. Williams and Wilmore took part in a space flight on the experimental Starliner, developed by the aerospace company Boeing. The capsule suffered technical problems. It was deemed too risky to take the astronauts home. So Starliner returned safely to Earth in September, empty.
3 out, currently reefing.
While the NASA pair had to stay back. They have only been able to return now, after being stuck in space for more than 9 months. The astronauts have regularly spoken about being comfortable with their situation. While they were up there, they carried out an array of experiments. They conducted spacewalks. In fact, Williams broke the record for the woman who spent the most hours outside a space station.
Number 2,
the team also played dress up for Christmas.
We have here with us to just prepare, which will be sort of fun.
But their journey has gripped global attention, and their return is being embraced. NASA officials have praised their resilience.
You know, the thing I think back of this whole time frame is how really resilient Butch and Sunny were the whole time. I mean, they launched on what was going to be a short test flight with the crew flight test vehicle with Boeing. And then they moved very quickly into station increment operations, and they became seamlessly part of the International Space Station. And they did that because they're experienced astronauts.
Meanwhile, people are celebrating the return, especially in Williams's Indian ancestral village.
बहुत ही खुशी है सर, पूरी रात जगे हुए, रात भी जगे, रात को भी हवन चली है और सुबह भी हवन करना है, कल भी भंडारा करना है.
So what happens next? The astronauts reunited with their loved ones and were quickly hustled away for medical checks. After all, space is tough on the human body.
That is none other than Sunny Williams.
When they come back to Earth, it's still a big difference going from that weightlessness to suddenly being under gravity again. So they have to adapt to that both physically and mentally. So they will be under direct medical supervision for a couple of weeks. Then they'll continue to do physiotherapy to make sure that they're getting back to normal as quickly as possible.
So the world has breathed a sigh of relief. The astronauts have returned home. But it will be a while before they readapt to living on Earth.
That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big...
Do you think...
Be under direct medical supervision for a couple of weeks. Then they'll continue to do physiotherapy to make sure that they're getting back to normal as quickly as possible.
So the world has breathed a sigh of relief. The astronauts have returned home. But it will be a while before they readapt to living on Earth.
That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big...
Well, 2 NASA astronauts are finally back on Earth. They were only supposed to be in space for 8 days, but then the mission turned to a more than 9-month-long journey, right? ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with details on their long-awaited return.
This morning, a safe return home for 2 NASA astronauts who splashed down off Florida's Gulf Coast after an extended mission in space.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
NASA's Mission Control in Houston erupting in cheers at this moment as the SpaceX Dragon capsule arrived home with astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore safely on board. A recovery team pulling the capsule onto a recovery ship.
We're overjoyed. I watched every crew member come out of the vehicle today. Post-landing, it was great to watch Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander come out of Dragon and smile and wave as they came out of the vehicle.
The astronauts had been on the International Space Station since last summer after an 8-day stopover stretched into a nearly 9-month mission. Wilmore rejected the idea that they needed to be rescued.
There's many ways to characterize it. Stranded, I don't think, is one of them because we're on the space station. Stuck is not one of them because we're on the space station. Now, had we not made it to the space station, there would have been many adjectives that you could have characterized this by.
NASA said in an emergency scenario, they could have used one of their spacecrafts docked to the station, but were waiting for another crew to relieve them. Wilmore, who has 2 daughters, one in college and another in high school, talked about the toll of being away for so long.
I'm going to miss most of her senior year in high school.
Meanwhile, Williams broke the female record for most time on spacewalks, 62 hours and 6 minutes. Her family filled with pride.
I'm very proud of her for being such a role model.
I think she's inspired a lot of young girls all over the world. I think she's touched a lot of people.
Now, along with Williams and Wilmore, the capsule was also carrying another astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut who took the spacecraft to the International Space Station in September. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.